Stephanie with the Rancher's Homestead blog. Welcome back to the channel. So I am standing out here in my very cold, snowy, frozen garden, and you're probably thinking, why is a video being out in February on gardening? Well, because now is the time that you want to start thinking about planning your summer garden. And there are 4 things that I do right now that help me to be prepared and to let everything kick off seamlessly in my garden. So even though it feels like the sun is never gonna warm up, the snow is never gonna melt, it will, and it'll be here before we know it. And so it is time to start planning now and being prepared. So let's jump inside where it's nice and warm, and I will show you what I'm doing right now, my 4 tips in preparing for my summer garden. Okay, we are back inside where it's nice and warm with a hot cup of coffee, and now we're ready to see what we need to be doing right now for our summer garden. So it's really hard to be thinking about a summer garden when there's snow on the ground or ice on the ground or it's just really frigid cold. But it is time to start thinking about it. The best way that I have found to store seeds is in these this little photo container. And I will link it in the description, but it basically holds like this. And now I can keep all of my seeds in these little containers. I do it alphabetically, and I just have written on here what seeds I have in here. What I'll do when I'm sitting down to plan out my garden is step 1 is to figure out what I'm going to grow this year and order my seeds. Well, I don't want to order what I already have. Your seed packets will have an expiration date on it, but basically what that expiration date means is that year it was dried and ready to be planted, and that is your best year for germination. I have planted seeds that are 2, 3, I think even 4 years old, and they have germinated. I'll get some as the years go on that maybe won't germinate. I just make sure on my older seeds to plant lots of them, and when I'm starting them, so that if some do not germinate, I have plenty to back that up. So I will go through, look through all of my seeds and make a list of what I need and where I'm going to buy them from. This year I am buying all of my seeds, or I've bought all of my seeds from the Grateful Harvest Seed Company, and that is a small family-owned seed company right here in my area. They're actually great friends of mine. They started 2 years ago. This is their 2nd season, and they have over 130 new varieties this season than last. Last year, I didn't buy all my seeds from them, but this year I did, and it was really fantastic because it was a one-stop shop, many varieties of each kind of produce that you want, so I was able to pick and choose what I want. I love that they are just a small family that are out there to serve people. They saw a need when seed companies were going out of stock, when everyone 2 years ago decided that they wanted to grow a garden, and seeds just were going out of stock left and right, or some companies were just shutting down altogether. Then they saw a need, and so they started this company. They grow all of their own plants and harvest their own seeds straight from their own gardens or somebody they know and trust. So they're able to be in control of their seed supplies. So I go to their farm every week and pick up my raw milk. They are a fabulous family. Somebody that I would love to stand behind and support, and they have exceptional seeds. So I've seen the way that their garden is. I've been able to walk through their garden. I see how they care for their plants, and I'm 100%, they have my business as long as they have the seeds. So I bought all of my seeds there this year. However, I do have seeds from years past that are not from them that I don't need to buy this year. And so some of my seeds this year are going to come from Baker Seed Company, or another one was the Little Seed Shop, I think it's online, that I had bought 2 years ago. So those seeds will come just from, they're going to be older seeds that were from a couple years. Anything new is coming from the Grateful Harvest Seed Company. They do have one of the rarest tomatoes, and you better believe I bought those this year, and that is the giant crimson tomato, and I did buy that this year. So check them out. I will link their site in the description, but that is where I'm buying my seeds this year, and I highly recommend them. They will ship, I think anything over $50 is free shipping, so that is a really great spot to get your seeds this year. My tip number 2, so after I know what I'm going to plant this year, and I make my list, and I order my seeds, now it's time to make a to-do list. Now, I'm a list person, so this is something that I thrive on, but it is really, really important. And the reason being is that when you're planting so many seeds or starting so many seeds, you need to know when to start them and when not to start them, because you don't want them to be too early when you can't even get them in the ground for your zone. You need to know when they can be transplanted outside depending on your frost date. And so all of those things are highly important when you're starting seeds. On the Grateful Harvest Seed Company website, there is a resource page, and then I think it's called Vegetable Sheet. And this is a guide that Adam, one of the owners, made up that basically answers all of those questions for you. It's so great. So I just go to that website, and I will link that resource here on the show notes. But I will go to that website, I'll click on the vegetable sheet, and then I am able to see, okay, count back my estimated frost date. This is when I should start them inside. This is when they're okay to go outside into the ground. And I can kind of gauge. Not all of your seeds are going to be planted at the exact same time. So they're not going to be started at the exact same time. Majority are, but not all of them. And so it's really important to know and either use a date planner or have a list that you kind of keep handy to know when you need to start them so you don't miss any of those dates. So that is my tip number 2, is to get organized by once you know what you're planting, once you have your seeds, use that sheet to your advantage and figure out when you're supposed to start those seeds and when they're supposed to go into the ground. Tip number 3 is to map out your garden. You can do this well and ahead of time, way before you even need to get out there. I will go out, I know how many beds I have, I know the layout, I'll draw it out, and I like to use a garden journal to be able to do that. I don't have mine for this year yet. I just ordered it, so it should be coming in. But you can draw out your squares. You know if you need to add any beds to your garden, if that's even something that you can do. If you don't need to add any beds. And then I will use the book called Carrots Love Tomatoes. It is the simplest book, but it's all about companion planting. And that is when you use one bed and you plant multiple vegetables in that bed that go well together, and it maximizes your space. So once I kind of know where I want things to lay out, because like I move my tomatoes every year, there's things that move every year because you don't want to put them in the same soil or the same bed every year. I will lay that out, and then I'll figure out where I can, if I'm doing rows of broccoli this way, down the center, carrots do great with it, or onions do great with broccoli. Plant those right down the center of my broccoli plants that are on the outside, things like that. So being able to companion plant is going to save you space, and it's going to just be more efficient in everything that you do, and your plants will thrive when they're with other plants that they are good companions with. So that's my tip number 3, is to map out your garden. Don't just go in hilly-nilly and you have all your starts, you're ready to put them in the ground, and you just go out and you just start planting. I did that the first 2 years. It doesn't work very well. I mean, it's okay, but you could be much more efficient and have a much better harvest and healthier plants by really mapping it out and companion planting with that. And my last tip number 4, is to gather all of your seed starting supplies. So I use a light, and I've kind of gathered lights over the years, so as my garden has grown and I have more trays of starts, I need more lighting. And so just putting them next to a window really doesn't do it when you're starting them. It can, plenty of people have done it, but having a good grow light on your seeds really helps them to germinate and sprout up really quickly. If you have a greenhouse, that's even better. That's fantastic. I don't, so I use grow lights. So making sure you pull out all of your trays. These are things that I use year after year. So it is an investment up front, But once you have them, they carry over year after year. I will pull them out, see if any of them are cracked or damaged, or they're just looking blah from being year after year. And I'll toss those, maybe get a new set. If I've grown my garden and I know I'm going to need more starter cups, then I'll buy some more. I usually do 2 to 3 seeds in each hole, and then I separate my seeds if they all germinate, then I separate my little seedlings out, and so I need many cups. Last year, I ran out of cups. I did so many, and I just used red Solo cups. I drilled a hole in the bottom of them, and I saved all of those red Solo cups. So you don't have to just, go out and spend a ton of money. You can simply just use red Solo cups, or I've seen people use instead of trays, just take egg cartons and drill little teeny tiny holes in the bottom for drainage and use egg cartons. There's just so many options that you can use homemade. Yogurt containers, sour cream containers, all of those containers you can drill a hole in and use them as your seed starting. So you don't need to go out and spend a ton of money. But I would recommend saving those year after year, no matter what you use. Even if they're not the traditional seed starting cups, save what you're using and use them again next year until they no longer are good and sturdy and all of that, and then just change them out for something new. So gather all of your supplies, be ready, because once you have your list of when you're supposed to start your seeds, you're going to want to have your stuff ready to do it on that day or in that week that you have it. You don't need to be so concerned about this exact day I need to start these seeds. You can definitely, within a week is fine. I started seeds late last year. We had a very, very late snow. I didn't even get them in the ground till I think Memorial Day, and I was like stressing. Last year was just a really rough year with our drought and our bug situation in the garden because of the drought and hand watering and all of that. Here in Missouri, we typically get rain throughout the summer. We should anyways, and it just didn't happen last year, and so the garden was really, really rough. So really, I wouldn't stress too much on the timing. If it's a little bit later, you're not going to hurt anything. The biggest thing would be your first frost date in the fall, making sure that you get a harvest, but there's always the option of pulling fruit or vegetables in and ripening them in your house if you get to that point and you need to. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is some of the books that I use for my garden. Now, I'm a book junkie. I love to read. But one of them, and I don't have it here with me, is the Carrots Love Tomatoes. I will link it. This beginner's vegetable guide, I don't use it as much now, but it is a really great one that I started with. So if you're a beginner gardener and need to just know, just want to know how to get started and just kind of everything all the way from equipment, how to get started, all of that, this is a really good one to start with. The Family Garden Plan is another one I turn to quite often, and I'll link all of these, but this one is a really good one to figure out how much you need to grow for your family for a year. One thing I will say, and I learned this the hard way last year, is, that'll be my goals for this year, is to plant for 2 years at a time if you can. So you want to try and preserve for 2 years at a time. The last book is this Vegetable Gardener's Bible. This is the one that I use probably the most. I tag everything. I mean, this has everything you need to know about gardening. I turn to this one all the time. A good friend shared it with me last year, and it has been a game changer in my garden. So I use this often, and it has all different kinds of methods. It has so much information packed in it. So I highly recommend this one as well. So these are the gardening books that I recommend. Happy gardening this year. I know it seems far out, but it really isn't. And I hope that you take some of these tips, apply them, get ready. Check out the links in the description for all of the different, where I bought my seeds, the books, all of the things. And I hope this was helpful. Make sure that you like and subscribe for one new video every single week. If you become an email subscriber on the blog, I send out 2 new emails a week. One usually a recipe and one not. Sometimes both are recipes. And let's stay connected. I will see you next time. Take care.